All right, that's the preliminaries. Let's get to our keynote speaker, Flossie. Come on up.
I think this thing is on. Can you guys hear me? Thank you guys so much for having me. I just want to say thank you to Mike for inviting me tonight. I like to start most of these talks to ask everybody in the room, is there any veterans or active duty military or military spouses? I know we have one, my husband, two. Now how about people affiliated with the military? Anybody have any family members affiliated with the military? Brothers, cousins, siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents? Family member, great-grandfather. Okay, so I always ask that just because the military is kind of a totally different world. So most people don't understand what we go through. So I wanted to preface that before we got into my story and who I am and why I became an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship wasn't my path. It was a total accident. I was actually supposed to become a doctor. So how many people read my bio before they came tonight? Okay. So I am an active duty military spouse. My husband, Mike, in the back, has been in the Navy for 18 years. We have 4 kids. They are 20, 16, 10, and 8. And my whole life, I wanted to go into medicine. So is everybody in this room in entrepreneurship? Yes? Business? Okay. So I wanted to be in medicine as far as I could remember. So I went to school for 10 years. Why 10 years to get into medicine? Because it takes a really long time. But also because I'm a military spouse. So as a military spouse, I started out in community college in upstate New York. So I'm from upstate New York. And then I met my husband, who's in the military. He was stationed in Gulfport, Mississippi. So I was in community college then from New York to Gulfport, Mississippi. Because as a military spouse, you have to go where the Navy sends you, right? I don't get to choose where I live. So I transferred to Mississippi. I graduated from Mississippi with an associate's degree. I was like, yes. Okay, one step further. I got an EMT license because I was like, okay, you have these check boxes you have to get to become a doctor. Got my EMT license. I was pregnant with our second child. Was told that I couldn't become an EMT because I was pregnant. I'd have to sit at a desk job. He was getting ready to transfer again because that's military lifestyle. I was like, damn it, I can't be an EMT. What am I gonna do now? Okay, I'll just transfer. We're gonna move to Michigan. All right, next up, Michigan. I applied to the University of Michigan. Got in, excited, great school. Got to University of Michigan, I was like, okay, time for my bachelor's degree. I'm gonna get into biology. That's what I need to do. Get pregnant with our just had our third, get pregnant with our 4th child. So I'm at the University of Michigan, I have 4 children. Everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's okay, I can do this, right? University of Michigan, not an easy school. I have 4 kids at home, a husband who's never home because he's in the military. I'm PreMed. Just really easy. Organic chemistry, physics, calculus, all the easy subjects. Taking 18 credits a semester. Super easy. I'll also add research to the list because I'm a super overachiever, right? So like, you guys can't tell me I can't do this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do all of it. I'm gonna do all the things. My professor at one point told me in genetics, he's like, do you think you're taking on too much? And I was like, don't tell me that. Watch, buddy. Watch what I'm gonna do. So, graduated from the University of Michigan, but not then, not when I was supposed to, because you know why? My husband got transferred to California. I was like, you know what? I'm never gonna do this. This is never gonna happen. So when he was being transferred, I was about, I think, 6 classes away from graduating. We had 4 kids. My youngest was, I think, a year old at the time. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll stay behind. Maybe I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stay behind. You go to California. I'll stay with 4 kids. I'll graduate. I'll take my MCATs. I have this whole thing planned. I'm gonna do it by myself. I don't need you. I can do this by myself. Go ahead, go to California. He went, I made it like 3 months. I was like, never mind, I'm coming to California. Can't do this by myself. So I packed up my stuff, moved to California, got to San Diego, and I was miserable. I was like, I'm only a few classes away from graduating. I want to be a doctor so bad. Why is it so hard? It's been almost 10 years. Can I seriously just do this? As a military spouse, you don't get to pick what you do in life. The military sends you wherever you're gonna go. Mind you, in this 10 years, my husband had deployed multiple times. He'd left for training trips multiple times. I was home with the kids by myself, months on end. Still, this is my goal. I'm gonna make this happen. So in San Diego, he was deploying yet again. When we were in San Diego, he was stationed with Special Forces. He was with SEAL Team 3. So again, just an easy deployment, no big deal. I was like, all right, you're leaving. I'm gonna pack up all 4 kids, put all their stuff in a pod, move back to Michigan. I'll just stay in an apartment for, 9 months, take my last few classes, graduate, do this, it's really easy, and then come back, take my MCATs, and then I can finally apply to medical school. He's like, babe, if you're gonna do that, go for it. So you know what I did? I did it. Packed up everything, went to Michigan, graduated, dual degrees with honors, took my MCATs, moved back to San Diego and said, yes, I'm gonna go to medical school. Was so excited. He got home from deployment. I was ecstatic when I finally hit the submit button on my MCAS and was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go to medical school. Guess what was happening? Another deployment. And we were broke because I'd been in school for 10 years, hadn't been working. You know how that feels? Being broke, chasing your dreams, sitting at home with 4 kids going, when is this ever gonna be my turn? I was exhausted. I was like banging my head against the wall. Mind you, I had applied to schools in Southern California. Do you know how hard the medical schools are in Southern California? They are 5 of the top medical schools in the country. I was like, oh yeah, no big deal. They should be super easy. What if I get in? What am I gonna do with my kids? Right? So I was like, this isn't gonna happen for me. So rewind a little bit. I grew up a poor kid. I've never known a business owner in my life until 5 years ago when I started my first business. My husband was getting ready to deploy again. And up until then, I had this little bit of a weight loss journey. I had lost almost 100 pounds by healthy eating, and I started this Facebook page through this whole schooling thing called Healthy Mama. And I chronicled my weight loss journey, and I did it for free to help people. I posted recipes, posted all these things. And as I'm sitting home during this time off with the kids in San Diego, I had friends come to me and say, hey, I want you to teach me how to meal prep. You do all this stuff for free on Facebook, you post all these recipes, you do all this good stuff. I want you to teach me how to do it, and I'll pay you. And I was like, you know what? I need money. I don't know what else to do. I'm not going to medical school right now. Absolutely. I will cook food for you, pay me, and I posted it on Facebook. And that weekend, my inbox absolutely exploded with other people that said, I didn't know that you would cook for me. Please come cook for me too. And then a light bulb went off. I was like, okay, I can make some money while I'm staying at home, and I can cook for people, help them get healthy while I figure out what I'm doing. So I'm not going to medical school right now. That's on hold. So let me figure this whole thing out. So that first week I cooked for 2 families. Second week I cooked for two more, which was 4. And then by the 3rd week, I think I was cooking for 10 families. And I posted this on Facebook, literally just to friends and family. Apparently nobody likes to cook. Does anybody in this room like to cook? Has anybody ordered a meal kit or meal delivery service? Like, everybody. So I was like, so this is the thing, people hate cooking and everybody wants healthy, affordable food delivered to their house. And I was like, all right, well, this is, a thing, light bulb. So this was 2015. And honestly, never taken a business class. I have degrees in biology. I have a degree in psychology. I did genetic research. Not a single business class, nothing. I was like, but I can figure this out. I got Google, I got YouTube. I know what's going on. I can figure out how to make a bunch of rice and not make it crunchy, and make a bunch of broccoli, not make it mushy. I can hire a friend, make her come cook with me all day. I got a 16-year-old kid, I can put him to work for free. So that's exactly what I did. So within a few weeks, we were making all these meals, and I literally got out a single subject notebook in my dining room. And on the very first page, I said, company name, Healthy Mama. Second page, websites. How to build a website. I Googled it. Wix, okay, that seems easy, I can figure that out. You know, recipes, pricing, companies. And I realized that there were no companies offering at-home meal delivery services that offered family products, kids products that were affordable and tasted good. Everything was geared towards fitness industry, and it was like $16 a meal, and it was chicken and broccoli and brown rice. I was like, this is gross. Like, I don't want to pay $16 a meal for this 6-pack abs in a box, and then what do I feed my kids? Pizza? I was like, this is terrible. There's nothing just for families, and there's nothing that's affordable. And growing up as a poor kid, I didn't know what was healthy, and I didn't feel right as a family of 6 at the time. How do I spend that much money on gross food? So I was like, there's a gap in the market, right? So light bulb, I didn't know it yet, but the entrepreneur in me saw a big opportunity to feed people, help people get healthy in a different way, and bring money into my family, which was desperately needed in Southern California on a very low military budget. So obviously I had some marketing sense and started putting some stuff out on Facebook and social media. Hired a few military spouse friends of mine and said, come to my house on Sundays. I will pay you cash and feed you free food for the week, and you're gonna help me figure this thing out. Within a few weeks, we were making about 100 meals a week on Sundays out of my home kitchen. Within a few months, we were making 800 meals a week out of my home kitchen. 1 stove, 4 burners, 1 oven, and a bunch of coolers in my garage. Everybody would come to my house on Friday or on Sunday at 5 o'clock. We'd be handing bags out the door, and we couldn't keep up. We literally had to cap orders every single week. And I said, you know what? We're gonna figure this out, but I'm gonna rent a commercial kitchen. Everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I don't know, but we're making like thousands of dollars a week. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but we're gonna figure this out. So I looked up the largest meal prepping company in San Diego at the time, and I called that company and said, can I rent space in your kitchen? Because I was like, if I'm gonna learn using their stuff, and I'm gonna watch what they're doing, and I'm gonna figure this thing out. And the company was like, oh, you're doing this little thing for military families? I was like, yeah, just this little thing, not knowing that I have world domination plans, right? So I was like, because if you're gonna learn from the best, right? So I was like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna watch you, I'm gonna see everything you're doing. She was like, yeah, you can come in on Sundays, you just need a few hours. I was like, yeah, but if I need more time, can I like expand as I get bigger? And she was like, sure. So I went in on Sundays, and then, you know, 1 week the rice was crunchy, and I think I burned myself the very first day. I still have scars because using this big commercial equipment that I had to ask everybody in the kitchen, like, how do I turn this thing on, and what is this thing that I could walk inside of and like bake people if I needed to? So you figure it out. Google and YouTube. Everything you think of that could go wrong went wrong 95 times. But every day I was like, what went right? What went wrong? No, let's try that again. Every dollar that I made, I bought more pans. I hired another person. I got more equipment. I bought more marketing stuff. I bought materials. I bought stuff with my name on it because I thought stuff with my logo on it was cool. So I did everything I could to grow my business with every dollar that came in, but I had no idea what I was doing. So within 9 months of us being in that commercial kitchen, we did $990,000 in revenue. Everyone was like, what are you doing and how are you doing it? I was like, I have no idea. And business people were like, are you serious? You obviously have something, like some inkling. I was like, no, seriously, people just want it, and I'm building it and flying it with people in it. That's my quote to this day. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was figuring it out as I was doing it because I wasn't afraid of failing, and I failed every day. I remember signing up for my first payroll company, and they were like, who do you use for workers' comp? And I was like, oh, we don't have that. And she was like, you have to have that. And I was like, oh, okay, sign us up. And she was like, what do you use for taxes and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I don't file that thing. And she was like, you have to. And I was like, oh, sign me up for somebody for that. But everything I did wrong. But it was very painful because when you grow that rapidly, it's gonna hurt. We had 50 employees within our first 6 months. So when you talk about really painful in the state of California with the labor policies, that sucked. You're learning how to hire people and fire people and build manuals and procedures and HR packets and policies and pamphlets they're supposed to get. I don't think I slept. I developed type 2 high blood pressure in the first 6 months. It was a little scary. My husband came home from deployment and I had 12 employees in a commercial kitchen. He goes, "What the hell did you do?" And I was like, surprise, I started a company. I'm not going to med school. And he was like, okay. And I was like, put on this apron, you're cutting chicken. And then for 2.5 years, he was like, I don't want to cut chicken ever again. But he was our delivery driver, and he was taking orders, and he was routing drivers, and my teenager and his girlfriend were my first and last employees from that company at the age of 16, because we had resilience and grit, and we did everything we could. And we ended up hiring almost 100 military spouses in under 3 years, and we put almost $500,000 in payroll back into the pockets of military families, because that's what I believed in. And it hurt, and I did a lot of things wrong, and I don't have that company anymore because of a lot of things I did wrong, and also because it was in San Diego, and if you noticed, I'm now stationed in Ventura, because home is where the Navy sends me. But moral of the story is, I think that it was very successful because I didn't have traditional training, so I wasn't scared of all the things that I knew could go wrong because I didn't know they could go wrong. So I was just like, okay, we're just gonna do it. And even now in business, I'm not afraid to just do it. I just do it, and I'm like, okay, if it fails, it fails. You can't be afraid of failure, because failure is gonna happen in business. The bigger you try, the further it's gonna, the harder you're gonna fall and the more it's gonna hurt, but it's inevitable. So somebody just asked me, he goes, what's your favorite business that you have? Because now I have multiple businesses. And I said, my recent venture is my most favorite because nothing's gone wrong yet. He goes, well, you said yet. And I go, yeah, because it's yet. It's too new. Nothing's gone wrong yet. We've only had it for 2 months, and it's pre-launch still. So nothing's gone wrong yet. But it will go wrong, and things are going to go wrong, and I've learned that in business. So I know I have about 5 more minutes. So since then, Healthy Mama did about $3.5 million in revenue in 2.5 years in San Diego. We sold 500,000 healthy, affordable meals to families because that was our goal, healthy, affordable meals. So our meals averaged about $7 a meal. Kids' meals were about $3 a meal. We donated over 10,000 meals to homeless veterans in San Diego and multiple organizations and nonprofits, because that's what we believed in. So we started out with a mission and we ended with a mission. And since then, now part of what I do is advocacy. And now I teach entrepreneurship and training, which is crazy. Someone who's never taken a business class in their life, but I feel like I've had a crash course in entrepreneurship since then. But I teach military spouses all over the country how to start and launch and grow their own businesses. So I've been invited to the White House, and I advise companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft who are building programs for military spouses on how to launch and grow their businesses. Because I don't know if anybody's aware, but military spouses have the highest unemployment rate in the country because of our lifestyle. So it's almost 30%. And we're turning to remote work options and entrepreneurship in higher numbers every day. And that starts with training and programs. And first of all, sorry, it's a little emotional for me because it's part of what I do every day. But giving them the option to know that it exists. I didn't even know it was an option for me. I was just like, well, what the hell? And I just turned to it on accident by a friend. But when I stand in front of a room of hundreds of military spouses and I say, this is an option for you, light bulbs light up all over the place. What are you good at? Are you a good photographer? Are you good at this? And you can't be afraid to take that first step. All you have to do is take that baby step to get towards your dream, and then just keep trying every day. So now I'm working with companies and businesses and training programs to help them all over the country. So that's part of what I do and who I am. So that's my story.
Wonderful.
And sorry if I'm a fast talker, I'm from New York.
I'm from New Jersey. I
Yeah.
understood every word. I can go faster.
Yeah. It was really tough in the South. They were like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Slow. And say all y'all a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions for Flossie?
I asked you earlier, because I told you I started in entrepreneurship too, and I came to a point of expansion, but it seems like you had no fear in expansion, and I was just wondering, was it just the compassion for yourself and for your family, you knew you had to survive and get them, you were in circumstances that just like, nah, like I have to push through, created that need for all of that ingenuity and just perseverance? Do you think it was the necessity that just came to you?
So it's part of who I am, actually. So on my team slides and all the companies and what I do, one of my description words is world dominator because I'm a fast scaler. It's part of what I do. I don't think really small. When this was in my house, everyone's like, what are you going to do with this? And I was like, oh, I'm going to make this in every store all over the country, and I'm going to deliver my food to this was literally like just in my house. And all my friends looked at me and they were like, you're crazy. And within a few months, they're like, oh, she's gonna do it. And now people come to me because of that superpower. But it's just my mentality that I think that you should always think really big. But when I go to help people or companies, I always say, what is your world domination plan? Because some people don't want to think that big. Some people are just perfectly happy with, I just want this to be just me and my business and make enough money to do this and invest in this and just be that. And then other people are like, I want to turn this into a world agency and be all over the world and blah, 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 blah. So it depends on what your goals and visions were. Mine have always been like, I want the biggest of the biggest. So from day one, I've always like, let's make this huge. So in all the companies I've always built, I'm like, my world domination strategy is as big as possible. So what's your world domination strategy?
Can you give an example of a project you've worked on with some of the military spouses where you think the business might be scalable to, kind of venture-sized, billion-dollar-plus market? Because it sounds like you had great success, but the companies have maybe struggled to scale, up above certain run rates. So maybe I'm misspeaking, but I got the impression that it's hard to scale that kind of business that's based on brick and mortar and so forth.
So it is. So some of the companies, so I've found a lot of military spouse-owned companies are more creative companies. They're photography businesses, they're web design, they're social media marketing. They're more portable businesses. So they're not even brick and mortar, but they're not your traditional, what you would walk into an accelerator and see. They're not your technology, what's your exit strategy. So when I had Healthy Mama, every accelerator and startup advisor that I went to kept going, what's your exit strategy? I was like, I'm gonna strangle somebody if they keep asking me what my exit strategy is. Can I just have this for life? Like, is that okay? And then I learned in business, everyone goes into business to get rid of your business. And I was like, that's a thing? Can't you just own it? And can I pass it on to my kids and have generational wealth and like be a Kellogg's of the world or something? And I didn't realize, because naivety, you know what I mean, that you go into business to get rid of your business. But in the military spouse space, they often don't think that big. So even getting them into entrepreneurship is just one step, and then getting them to think big enough to an exit strategy is a whole nother ball game. So there's definitely a percentage of them that have gotten there, but it's like, let's get you into intro to entrepreneurship first, and then if you get to a scalable model, let's move you to a traditional accelerator, and then from there, let's move you on. So it's a whole different ball game, because we're so stuck in this rut of trying to fit into this employment, like you need a job, you need a job, you need a job, that we're just trying to open new doors. It's like a square peg in a round hole. So I don't know if that exactly answers the question, but right now we're just trying to say entrepreneurship's an option, and then let's get you to that world domination and exit strategy. But there's some military spouses that I know right now that are on Series A and Series B that are doing great things.
Any more questions? We need the mic because we're streaming. Greg may be watching.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, spouse. Thank you for your service to this country. I'm saying that on behalf of all of us here. And I thank you for what you're doing for the women in this, entrepreneurs and the spouses. What I wanted to ask you was, and I'm sure everybody else wanted to know, is what is your one advice that you can give any entrepreneur?
I think my best advice is just don't be afraid to try it, no matter what it is. And then if it doesn't work, pivot. I mean, you have to be willing to try it. And then my next best advice is mentorship. You have to have mentorship. I didn't find mentorship until my second year in business, and I was like, why did I not know that there were all these great people out here that could give you advice, that have been there and done all these great things, that can tell you all the ways that you can fail and make it a little less painful, which is why I do what I do now, because I'm just saying I've done a lot of these things and let's make it a little less painful for you going forward. So surround yourself with really trusted mentors, not ones that are trying to take a bite of your company or a piece of you in any way. People that are just there to support you, people that you can lean on in your inner circle, not ones that are there for a piece of equity or a piece of something, just really smart, amazing people.
Any more questions? You forced me to exercise tonight. They're like on opposite ends of the room.
I know you have strong values, so could you share what are your 3 most important values?
So my most important values is, I guess, 1, stay true to your mission. So I'm very mission-based. I'm not money-based. Those that work with me know that I've done a lot of great work for people, and I often don't get paid for most of it because I believe in the mission for a lot of what I do. So whatever your mission is, stay true to that. Don't always chase the money. I guess be honest, because in business, it will come back to haunt you. If you burn bridges, it's gonna always come back to bite you in the ass. And then build strong relationships. If you do good for other people, it will come back tenfold. And I have always put good out there 1,000 times over without expecting anything in return. And that is what has honestly opened every door for me in my career, in my life, and the last 5 years. I would not be where I'm at today if I didn't have other people lighting the way for me.
Good evening. I would like to applaud you for your determination to be able to achieve something that matters really most to most people. I'm also a wellness advocate, but I guess you can scale this business by really being strong in the mission. Your mission is really to help the military spouse and health and wellness. You know, our healthcare industry is really defective because it's focused on illness. What you're doing is you're focusing on wellness. So if this is something that you can really spread and expand, it is something that will also achieve my dream of seeing McDonald's and pizza sales go down, because I see that that's one of the causes of, the health illnesses in our country here. So once you develop that and technology is there, you can do the health and wellness coaching, expansion, so it's different states and different schools also. Probably that's to start with the school, and I applaud you, and I see you helping more people, and I'd like to share also your story to some spouses and some people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just found that, my MCATs expired just this past year, and everyone kept asking me, like, is it too late? Are you going to go to med school? Is that off the table? And the further I got away from it, the more that I realized that medical school wasn't really my path. And all my friends are doctors now, by the way. And it's funny to see them all, and they complain a lot, and they're very restricted, and just healthcare as a whole, as much as I love and appreciate our doctors, I felt like I did a lot of good for people in their health, getting people off of diabetes medication and lowering their blood pressure, and the stories of kids that didn't want to go to McDonald's, and at this, the Facebook messages that we would get and the emails and the things that my company did. I felt like I did a lot of good for people's health on my own terms, and I feel like I am a little bit more of a free spirit, and I felt like I would have been a little too constricted in the medical field, and I feel like I have a lot more to do with my life, and I think that I'm impacting a lot more people now than I could have in medicine. So I think that there was a much bigger purpose for me than in the medical field.
Right. I'm going to bring up the motherhood role because I think it's very challenging for females, especially professional females in the workforce, which is something that I've personally been struggling for years, finding that work-life balance. And I think it's one of the things that continues to hold me behind because I know I'm an entrepreneur by heart, and I know I can feel it, but it just kind of holds me back a little bit. So how did you deal with that? Wanting to be present with your children and knowing, that time goes by so quick, but then you still want your own company, your own person. How did you deal with that process?
So this is a question I get a lot. I have to give number one shout out to my husband. And I know it's not just because he's in the room, but I always do. He is literally half of everything that I do. When he is not at work, he is home. He is picking up the kids. He's doing the dishes. He's doing the laundry. He's doing homework. He's reading bedtime stories. Like I said, when I was working 18 hours a day, he was home. He was doing everything. I was living my dream because he was supporting me in everything that I did. So as women, we often feel like we have to do everything, and we can't ask our spouses to pitch in and step up and do those things. We feel like we need to do all the housework, or we can't hire a maid, or order food, or have our groceries delivered, or just let the house be messy because you're tired and you feel like taking a nap instead. We have to give ourselves some slack, and even at this point, I just let it go. I'm sorry, I'd rather lay down for 2 hours than clean my house. So, you know what, the house can be messy for 2 hours. Or kids, you have chores. All my kids have chores, and they're older now, so I'm a little bit luckier that the youngest is 8. But when I started my first company, it was 5 years ago, so she was 3, so it wasn't as easy when she was younger, but they all have chores. Dishes and trash and dog poop and dog walking and dusting and cleaning and laundry and babysitting. Everybody has a part to the family. So we are very firm that we all have a role to play, and it's not all my job. And we are very, very clear that we all have that part to play, and I'm very forgiving on myself that if I can't do it, I can't do it. Tomorrow's a new day. You have to give yourself some leniency. And I talk to people about it all the time. We just put all the weight right here and we just buckle. You can't do it. You gotta let it go.
I'm going to ask the last question. We have a lot of military spouses in Ventura County. What can we do to help them be entrepreneurs?
So hopefully we will have some amazing programming coming soon for military spouse entrepreneurs that will help teach them and guide them. But if you run into any military spouses, just talk to them about entrepreneurship, or talk to them or thank them. So it's really hard because everyone's aware of veterans and active duty service members. Everyone thanks them for their service. And I always say, I don't serve, but I've sacrificed. And I've always appreciated when people take the time to say, how are you? Are you doing okay? No, I'm not. I'm really tired. I'm exhausted. My kids are being jerks today. My house is a mess. And my husband's been gone for a month. Thank you for letting me vent. Or, hey, can I help you? Can I pick up a meal for you? Can I bring over, coffee or wine, or just offer to help out and lend a hand? And if, they're struggling a little bit, offer them to bring them to an event like this. We're so disconnected from our communities that we stay in our military bubbles that I didn't even know we had a startup bubble, a startup community, until Doug brought me out of my bubble, and because I came from San Diego after 8 years, and I was like, well, we're only going to be here for 2 years, so I'm not going to connect in the startup community here because I'm just going to go back to my San Diego startup community, and there's nothing really up here for me. And Doug said, oh, no. you're going to do all these great things that you're doing down in San Diego, and you're going to do that for our spouses here. And I was like, okay. And then I came out and I met all these amazing people. And then I said, okay, now I need to drag all my spouses out here to learn. But we get so clouded that we just don't want to take the time because I'm only here for 2 years. I'm not going to connect because we're just going to leave. So if you see a spouse or meet a spouse, make them connect, bring them to an event, plug them into a community, make them a friend, start to introduce them and plug them in and show them that this is a great town, but they're just quiet and lonely and hanging out on Point Magoo or Port Hueneme and complaining on some pages and wanting to leave. So don't make them want to leave. Show them how beautiful this town is and this community, because now we just got up for orders. We're not leaving. We're staying. We're staying because of this community that I found, and we're getting restationed here because I don't want to leave. I don't want to go back to San Diego. So I'm staying here because of you guys. So make other spouses feel that welcome.
I think that's the perfect segue into some applause for Flossie.